The thing that I find the most rewarding is that as a medical laboratory professional, you can help hundreds of people in a given day. A doctor or a nurse sees maybe a few dozen. They're really busy, but your hard work leads to hundreds of people getting the right treatment, getting the right diagnosis, potentially going home when they wouldn't have if you weren't there.
I think for me, I always think of the example of when I'm working directly with a surgeon on, say, a mastectomy case where the radiologist has identified this particular type of tumor and this particular size, and the diagnosis was XYZ, the treatment plan would then be XYZ, and then once we, the PA, actually analyze that specimen, we gross that case in, we actually discover something else that only the naked eye and then pathology diagnosis can reveal. And so for me, I feel like I'm doing the patient the service that they deserve. It happened just recently where I identified a cancer in a case that was just supposed to be a prophylactic case, and it was a surprise, and I felt like I went to work that day and I serviced and did justice what the patient deserved, and I was proud to be a PA at that moment and proud to serve the patient. The patient will never know. The patient has no idea even probably that we did that, but I feel like that's why I'm a PA, so I can make sure that they get the diagnosis, the treatment, and ultimately, life, in a way that no other person really can.
Being able to work behind the scenes and being able to be a part of the medical team is one of the rewarding part. Though we might not be seen at the background, but the vital work that we do basically is rewarding because we save lives. A good example is during the pandemic. Being in a rural community, we are the last basically to be hit by the pandemic. And being proactive, we swiftly acquired a COVID instrument. We were the first in Western Nebraska to acquire a COVID instrument. And right after validating that instrument, a big community fundraiser happened in our community. And during those times, resources were very limited, and your results would take about 5 days before a patient receives a result. And during that time, somebody from the fundraiser event got infected. And a few days later, the person who got in touch with the fundraiser basically infected others, and if they have to wait for 5 days, the entire community could have been infected. But with the swift and timely reporting of the results, we were able to quarantine those individuals, preventing a widespread of the infection.
Hospital, we're really part of a large team of healthcare professionals. But I think for myself, I really like interacting with the people within my laboratory. When we see something unusual under the microscope, and we know that is tied back to a patient, and so we may have conversations about what we're seeing and what we need to do next. And I find that just very rewarding to know that we're interconnected that way. Coming off the pandemic, I think the personal experience would be the COVID pandemic. So I work in microbiology, and when patients first started being infected with that virus, we were working 7 days a week, 12-hour days. And we had to start from scratch. We had to create tests. We had to make sure we had ways for all those patients to get swabbed, make sure that the results could go back into their medical record correctly. There were just so many details to take care of, ensuring the supplies, etc. So that was really an incredible experience, and changed a lot, I think, about how the laboratory functions and how it's perceived by the community.
I've got many examples about rewarding experiences in the medical lab. Some of the early ones are when I was actually working for the Department of Health in Texas and with CDC. We had a major epizootic. This was back in the 90s and early 2000s. We had a rabies outbreak, and I'm specialist in those areas in virology. And so I was on the inaugural team at the Department of Health that teamed up with CDC, the Canadian Ministry of Natural Resources, some other European experts, and we delivered a recombinant rabies vaccine aerially using aircraft all over the southern border of Texas to vaccinate coyotes and fox to prevent rabies. Now, really what I'm most proud of is my ability to work with advocating and promoting the profession. It's why I'm here today. I love doing this, and I love mentoring students, new alumni, colleagues that maybe are 10 or 20 years into the career, to kind of show them how important it is for us to get out in front of cameras, to get out in front of podcasts, to write articles, and to mentor students and alumni in how to do that effectively so that people learn and our profession becomes more visible.
I'll attest to my role as a uniformed service with the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps. I was called on to be deployed to different labs, so primarily within the Indian Health Service during COVID, when COVID was at its height, to provide the expertise to run their labs, to help run their labs, and having that need and knowing I can help fill that need very much gave me a sense of pleasure and of pride in that.
I have been in a laboratory for nearly 20 years now, and each and every day is rewarding. But what really sticks out to me is my grandmother. When she was living, she said the laboratory saved her life. So when she was pregnant, she actually had a blood transfusion. And from then on, she said, the lab saved my life. She got a blood transfusion, which did save her life.
When a person dies and the family wasn't expecting it, and by definition, those are the sorts of cases that come to our office for investigation. So the family just doesn't expect it. They're consumed with questions. What happened? Why now? And it's cold comfort that I can give. I can't somehow restore this person to life or make it better, but I can try to help them understand. It's powerful to see just how important simply trying to figure out why someone died and telling it to the family, and doing so in a way that makes clear to the family that you really care and feel for their loss. Do both of those things, and it's really profoundly amazing how helpful that can be to people.